Welcome. I call to order the June 16th, 2022 school board meeting for District 64, Park Ridge-Niles. The administration has asked us to go into closed session under 2C2, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of employees. And also, that was 2C1. Yes, thank you. All right, that's 2C1, thank you. We're also under 2C2, which is collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees. And then we have 2C6 is the setting of a price for sale or lease of property owned by the public body. And 2C9, which is student disciplinary cases. So do I have a motion to go to closed?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, so Larry had the motion and Phyllis had the second. How about any discussion? Okay, let's do a roll call to go into closed.
Riles?
Yes.
Wojtovich? Nikki Wojtovich?
Yes.
Pearl?
Yes.
Lubinsky, yes. Sotos? Yes. Salas?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Quorum carries.
Okay, so now it is 6:12 and we are going to go into closed session. I call to order the June 16th, 2022 school board meeting for District 64, Park Ridge-Niles. The board was in closed session for about 50 minutes from 6:12 till 7:05. And the board was in closed session under 2C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of employees. 2C2, which is collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees. 2C6, the setting of a price for sale or lease of property. And 2C9, student disciplinary cases. All right, why don't we start for a roll call?
Tom Sotos?
Here.
Wojtovich?
Here.
Pearl?
Here.
Kennedy?
Here.
Salas?
Here.
Riles?
Here.
Lubinsky, here. Quorum carries.
Okay. All right, let us stand for the pledge. Larry, can you help us out with that?
Absolutely. Which flag do you want to
That's
look
right,
at?
yeah, let's do
This
it.
one, that one?
That's what I was thinking. All
We'll
right,
look
let's
at
do
this one, I
Sure.
think, okay.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, as far as opening remarks, I don't have any. Happy summer. Hope everyone's transitioning into summer. Thank our board members, Tom and Phyllis and Larry, who attended the promotions at Emerson and Lincoln, celebratory occasions. And so why don't we start with public comment? And so this point of the meeting is when we welcome public comments. Each speaker is given 3 minutes to address the board. Comments may be made on almost any matter related to the operation of schools, but we ask that you refrain from making comments concerning individuals, students, or staff. The board uses this time to listen to community questions and concerns, but will not respond immediately to requests for information. Additionally, the board cannot take formal action on non-agenda items. Contact the board president via email if you wish to discuss your topics further. Please come forward to the microphone and state your name and, if comfortable, your address for the minutes. Any public comments? Yeah, right, going twice, okay. All right, let us move to our first agenda item, and then we'll do another celebration there. All right, so this is, we get to celebrate some of our students, and so in conjunction with ELF. So Eric?
Thank you. Yes, we are once again here to talk about the Judith Snow Awards. We're here once again to talk about the Judith Snow Awards, and I'm going to introduce Laura Dinney, who is our representative from ELF.
They're heavy. My name is Laura Dini. I'm the Judith Snow Ethical Leadership Award Committee member and ALF trustee. I'm here to honor the recipients of the 25th Annual Judith Snow Ethical Leadership Award. Each student is dutiful, honorable, and full of integrity. Not only did the personal essays display acts of leadership, but the recommendations from their teachers and members of the community prove that they are dedicated to making the world a better place for others. There were 4 students. There are 2 winners from Lincoln and 2 from Emerson. The winners from Lincoln Middle School were Everett Baldy and Molly Quinn Chase. The winners from Emerson Middle School are Avery Olman and Lucia Fuentes. I'm going to read just really briefly from each of the winners. Lucia Fuentes, her teacher states, Lucia has always been involved in the success of her friends and classmates and is a natural leader. She can always be counted on to lend a hand both to her teachers and fellow students. Avery. One of her teachers stated, she, Avery, would always listen and take other opinions seriously. She would try and use those suggestions to make her work stronger. This is the mark of a true, ethical, and responsible leader. Now, from Lincoln Middle School, Everett Baldy. His orchestra teacher said, simply put, Everett is one of the nicest and most thoughtful young person that I know. He seems perfect for this award. Then our last winner, Molly Quinn Chase, the assistant principal at Lincoln stated, Molly is an incredible person who takes on social justice and goodness, not just as words, but as actionable aspects of being a person in this world. I wholly appreciate her not just as a student, but as a person that I know. So some really wonderful quotes about some of our kids. So we would like to honor these 4 students. We think we have a couple of them here. If you want to stand and be recognized. Thank you. And I brought these just so you can see. These are the plaques that hang at Emerson and Lincoln. They're kind of heavy, so I'll pass them one by one. Thank you. Thanks very much. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, and we want to continue with another celebration. Oh, you want a picture? Yeah. Yeah, let's do that. Sure.
I'm going to shake somebody's hand.
Sure, that's good. Thank you. Great job. That's awesome. Oh, congratulations. So exciting. Good job. February's off there. You better do it the right way.
You guys are now a permanent part of the middle school hall of walls.
1, 2, 3. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you.
You're very observant.
Yes.
So, yes. Okay, and we're going to continue with the staff celebration. As Leanne just mentioned, this is her last board meeting ever. And so she was really excited about that. So we want to just take a few minutes. The board wants to just acknowledge your work in the district and want to take some time to thank you. So I really, any board members want to start there? Carol?
I'll start. So thanks for all of your efforts over the past several years. I do remember right before you started, before you were officially hired, or you started your work, you did meet at I'm pretty sure this might have been the Starbucks at Dominic's or Mariano's, right, with a group of parents. So we were excited when you came on board, and we're happy with all of the progress that you've made. So good luck with everything in the future.
You came in at a really interesting time at D64, and I think you handled it with grace. I think it was exactly what the parents and students and the district needed at the time. I'm sad to see you go, but I want to thank you for the last several years of handling probably one of the most important parts of our district and the need at the time. Thank you.
I appreciate you. You survived me in the onslaught for about 2 years of nitpicking everything you were doing. And you survived it really well. And because of you, we've made significant changes in how we do SPAD Ed and Gen Ed in District 64, and you're going to be missed.
I'd also like to say congratulations and thank you. I think, obviously, it took a little extraction last month out of our audit, but we got to a point where you made it very clear that you've got this district back on track. So thank you very much for doing that and coming in at a time of need and finishing your career on a high like that. Thank you.
And just on behalf of the board, thank you for all of your work, especially in this most challenging time throughout COVID. And as Gareth mentioned, I think the fruits of your labor, we really saw that last week in the evaluation. So thank you.
I'll be last. Thank you for everything you've done. Like everybody else said, I agree with you with them. You were always so prepared and always getting back to us with questions when I had many. And you're always on top of your A game. So I'm sorry to see you go. You will be missed. And I wish you luck. And are you retiring?
I am retiring.
All right. So I wish you luck. Lots of sun, health, and happiness.
Yes. And I just want to say, Leanne, I certainly echo what everyone else said. I observed you in PT3 often, and you were such a collaborator, really wanting to get the different voices on that team. And I learned from how you facilitated that. So I appreciate that. And SLC started under your tenure, and so you'll have a lasting impact on the district. And so thank you for that. You will be in spirit through that. So good luck, happy boating, happy sun. So, yes. Okay, and so from the board, there you go. Sunny flowers. Okay. All right, no more celebrations. Now we're on to business. Okay, all right. So if we look at the agenda, I think there was some conversation about moving item A6 to our first agenda item. So we'll move that to A3. All right, if we can do that. Any other?
Right, and we're deleting A7.
Yes, deleting A7. Yeah, thank you, Carol. Yep, good call. All right, any other movements to the agenda from the board? Okay. All right, well then let's start out with item A6. And so Dr. Parisi is going to lead us through that.
Thank you. We're back here this evening to talk about the property at the ESC, which as we're doing the renovations over at Jefferson, moving the district offices over there, there is no real use for that building anymore. So what we're looking to do is pass a resolution this evening to enter into the process of a sealed bid, setting the minimum price at $1.32 million.
Okay. All right. So any questions for Adam before we go to the motion? All right. Anyone want to make the motion? Maybe, oh, Carol, go ahead.
I'll do it. We just have, that blank in the resolution, so I'll, I guess, fill that in with the motion. Okay, so I
Yes.
move that the Board of Education of Community Consolidated School District 64, Park Ridge-Niles, Illinois, adopt Resolution 1292 authorizing the sale of real property with the insertion of 1.32 million in Exhibit B, Paragraph A.
Okay, Carol had the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Larry had the second. All right, discussion from the board. The board has talked about this previously.
Didn't we have last month also another criteria around the deposit that would be needed? Or do we need to do that too? Or is that not required?
Last month, as part of the resolution, we agreed, or the board agreed to ask for $80,000 in earnest money.
That's in Exhibit B still.
It is.
So, yes.
So that's still part of it. That's a good call, though.
Do we think that's still a reasonable amount to ask for?
Oh, are you saying should it change?
Yeah, that's why I'm asking if anybody has an
Okay.
opinion on that.
I think it's still reasonable. Do you-
I do.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. If there is no further discussion, we can take a vote.
Sellis?
All right, did someone, who seconded that? Just
Larry.
Larry?
Larry
Okay, Larry
seconded.
seconded. Okay, yes.
Wojtovich?
Yes.
Sotos?
Present.
Pearl?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Riles?
Yes.
Lubinsky, yes.
Okay.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. All right, thank you, Adam. All right, and Adam, maybe you're staying up there. Or Dr. Parisi, maybe you're staying up there. So the next item on the agenda is discussion and update on the construction happening at the schools.
So we're here tonight just to give a very brief overview of construction up to this point, and then between myself and Mr. Persani, we're more than happy to answer any questions. So overall, the construction of the buildings are going very well. We have footings and foundations have been poured. The exterior concrete walls have been constructed, and the trusses for the roofs are being constructed also. Looking at Jefferson specifically, it's moving along at a very good pace. The entire building, all the ductwork of the HVAC is on its way near completion. The district office side, because that side was vacated, the walls are up, the lighting is in. On the school side, since school has been let out, that's progressing well. All the old casework is being demolished. A lot of work. If you've been on the outside of the buildings, you'll see a lot of activity. And if you leave for a few days, you'll see even more activity. We're very impressed with the job. Not only Midwest Mechanical is doing on Jefferson, but Nicholas and Associates is doing on the 5 elementary schools. So if you had specific questions, we're more than happy to answer those. And then just one more plug. We put up a page on the district website, /construction, so we'll continue to update with pictures and videos so that the board and community members can keep an eye on what's happening.
Tony, do you mind just adding the piece about the Jefferson windows and what we were able to do successfully with those?
So if you remember, Jefferson School as a whole had window units for air conditioning in each and every room. Obviously, moving forward with the new system, new chiller system, that's not going to be necessary. At first, we were going to take the air conditioners out, fill them with general panels, till we found out that Steve, our custodian, had held on to the original windows some 20-plus years ago when they were put in. They were kept in storage the entire time at the building. So that saved us a boatload of dough, if you will, as they say, right? And it helped with the aesthetics. They're not just windows, they're windows with the blinds in the windows, so they're very expensive. Along with that, we were able to, with the addition that's going on for the technology department, we took out windows to accommodate for that space, right? So technology was short on windows, so we repurposed 2 sections of windows to the tune of about a $40,000 savings and relocate them on the site for technology so we can bring in some natural light, and then certainly making some people very happy in that department that they have natural light. So there are some real good, quick thinking maneuvers that we made as we went along. Something that wasn't planned originally, it's just those things you discover as you go, so.
I think the custodian needs a raise.
Yes.
That's what I think.
Yeah, it was quite interesting to see, so. It's like one of those things, I have that screw. Just hold on.
Yeah, I believe it.
So my first question is, are we on track as of today with where we thought we would be?
The answer to that was yes.
Yes.
That's great.
Are the teachers,
was no waiver.
Are the teachers in the district and the administrators, do they get a periodic briefing as the construction goes along? I realize it's on the D64 website.
We meet with principals and assistant principals and head custodians. We speak with them. We're having weekly meetings up until school's out, and then we'll be setting up like a mid-July check-in with those individuals. I know that principals were meeting with their staff members and informing them what was going on, especially at the buildings where there was, some movement. So.
Yep. Jefferson would have been probably the most, because we got the earliest start at that school, right? So there was a lot of talk with staff and the administration there. There was nobody that wasn't in tune. And I think that's why it was so successful, is because everybody played not only a role in it, but also, we were very good about being very open, and here's the next steps, and here's the next movement, and so on and so forth. So though so far it went very, very well. My complaint box is empty.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but for the most part, with construction this size, I'm sure someone has been affected and they've called you and said, hey, can you handle this? But for the most part, it doesn't seem like there's a huge disruption or impact, both on the schools themselves and their operation of the schools and the community around those schools. I haven't heard much, we've had situations in the past where it was constant complaints of this or that. These seem to be running really smooth for.
I can count.
For such a large, large project.
If you're not hearing any complaints, that's good news, and that's just reiterating some of the things that, Mr. Bersani was saying about, the not only, administration, our staff, but also the teams that we partner with, Midwest Mechanical and Nicholas and Associates, to work with that.
And again, I think so far the success, it's not going to go to us. The two contractors that are in charge of these jobs are top professionals. You met them early on last December, from Midwest and Nicholas. And we've known them, obviously worked with them in our previous districts, and that's why we had such big faith that these were the men to do it. We have superintendents in each and every job every day for the full work day, right? We have weekly meetings with all our superintendents and their project managers every week. We take that information, we pass it along to administrators as needed, including Dr. Olson as well. So there's very little, I think, if any, steps that have been missed, and I think that's the credit of the organization of all those groups together and their buy-in of what this vision of the district is to keep things moving.
Yeah, I drive past almost every single one of the projects, and they're always in order. There's not trash everywhere. Their equipment is placed in order when they're done for the day. Everything's fenced in nice. I mean, it seems like this specific project, over the many we've had, this one is being run real tight.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Bersani made the joke about the complaint box, but I applaud him for taking phone calls from residents and either speaking with them on the phone or going and meeting them in person so he can help with that communication. That has helped tremendously.
I met the project manager over at Washington School. Great guy.
Yeah. Like I said, we're very pleased with the staff we've surrounded ourselves with to make this thing happen. That's why I think, your question earlier is that why we're confident in the abilities of them and also where we stand today, especially in some areas getting a late start, some get an early start.
I also live in a block from Field. I see them on Saturdays. They're working away, which is good. So they've taken advantage of the...
Most of the trades are working 6 days.
Right.
Yeah, which is good. I'm glad to hear it's on track too. The only thing, it's on track from time standpoint, I'd also just like to ask is that you pointed out a savings, but are there any change orders that are causing an overrun or anything in it?
No, I think what we have going on right now is fairly normal for, the pluses and minuses that go on with a job. I mean, there's things you expect to happen and things you don't have that expect. That's why we have, those contingencies built into place. So nothing I think is worthwhile outstanding to talk about. I think it's all pretty normal stuff.
Good. Okay, thank you.
And I know you guys did some ordering, way ahead of time. Is there any other things that you're not getting quickly enough, or things you're getting the material?
I'll tell you what, if we didn't make that move, we probably would not be so confident sitting on this side right now and being in this position. That was the right move. We hear from them, from both contractors who obviously have other jobs in other districts, and they're suffering. And so far, we're not.
You mean the mechanicals?
All of it.
Yeah, all of it, everything?
Everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry to keep turning this into story time, but can you tell about the time capsule too? I mean, I know that hasn't been concluded yet, but where you are so far.
So Eric and I got an email from a resident that lives over near Jefferson, and there's a courtyard at Jefferson, as you're all aware of. And this neighbor of ours went to school there back in 1971, and as a science project, they put a time capsule and buried it in the courtyard. And so the request is that if we haven't already torn it up, and if we could be of assistance, and I think it was left near the waterfall in the courtyard, which I don't know where the waterfall is because I can't find the waterfall. But, so I reached out, and I've got a message out to homeowners, say, I'd be invited to walk in, at their earliest convenience to see if maybe you could pinpoint what corner, what have you. I think there's been a few things done in that since 1971, the talk of the ducks and everything else, and it would be a hoot if we could find the capsule.
Well, I was there in like 78, and we put a capsule in too, so if you find mine, let me know.
Well, I'll tell you what, we are digging up one corner of it because we found a collapsed pipe, so I'm hoping that you're in that corner. You will get it.
Tony, real quick while I'm thinking of it, because I've had some V-Show people reach out. Did the gym, and I see Courtney's here, did the gym, the water in the gym, the new addition, get fixed in the
Where-
NPR
Which,
at Field?
at Field?
Yeah, Field, there was that leaking NPR.
Yeah,
Did it get fixed?
I'd probably address 100 things a day, and everything gets addressed and repaired immediately, so,
Phyllis got, actually, because we were practicing for the fee show, and it was dripping on her, which is why she's gonna follow up persistently on this one, so.
Well, again, we've got older buildings, I mean, things like this are gonna happen, the roofs, the storms that we get hit with, and so as soon as we're aware of them, we partner with the right roofers and whatnot, and they come immediately out, so I'm confident that it was taken care of. If it wasn't, I'll find out about it.
I trust you.
Sooner, but
Why don't you go in the NPR and do your performance?
I will tell you this, we were in the NPR today with one of our construction meetings for 2.5 hours, and we didn't notice anything, weren't informed of anything either, so my assumption is going to be that my staff took care of it. That's
I trust you that you did.
I trust that the guys took care of it, that's probably why I'm not aware of
No,
it,
I
so.
was like dropping off for band at like
Yeah.
6:30 in the morning, and there's Tony, 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
He's out there talking to somebody. I'm like,
Oh, my day starts at 5, so.
yeah, they're there.
So-
I said to my daughter, well, there's Mr. Bersani. She goes, oh, I see him all the time.
Well, and I do really want to thank you, because this summer, a vacation day for Tony means he only works till 10 or 11, and he is here at 5, so we just really appreciate all the time you're dedicating to make sure it all goes well,
Thanks.
so thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Exciting. Are you sitting down now, Adam?
For a little bit.
Just checking. Okay. Now we'll go on to our next agenda item, and it's the presentation of the District 64 Equity Action Plan. And so we have Lori and some committee members.
if you're willing to share. Thank you. Did you guys want to- Ask him at 9, he might take it. Maybe I should save these till then too.
Okay, well, I'm here tonight to share our equity action plan, and I'm here, actually, there are some committee members in the audience as well, but up at the table here tonight are 3 of what are called our strand leaders, and we'll talk more about what that means in a minute, but Dr. Frost is here, and Courtney Goodman, who is the principal at Field, and Tessa Schulman, who is the assistant principal at Emerson. Eric was one of the strand leaders, and I was as well, and Joel Martin actually partnered with Tessa. So the District 64 Equity Leadership Committee is actually made up of over 30 people, including parents, staff members from grades pre-K through 8, administrators, and Carol was our board representative. And over the course of the year, we met 8 times to draft what's called our Equity Action Plan. And this work was facilitated by Dr. Yvette Dubiel, who is with an organization called Systemic Educational Equity. And the Equity Action Plan identifies objectives for advancing equity within 5 strands. And these strands are defined by Dr. Dubiel. And the first strand is systems, and systems focuses on things like continuous development through policies and processes and fiscal responsibility. The second strand is teaching and learning, which focuses on our practices in curriculum and instruction, in the way that we use assessments and in academic programs. The student voice, climate, and culture strand actually focuses on seeking student feedback and using that feedback to really nurture a positive climate. Professional learning, of course, focuses on professional growth opportunities, not just for staff, but for the community as well. And then family and community as agency focuses on our partnerships with families and with community members. So equity is not a new commitment in District 64. This initiative is aligned to both the District 64 strategic plan and our current board policy 710. Board policy 710 is about access to equal educational opportunities and to extracurricular opportunities. And strategic goal 4 in the strategic plan is enhanced diversity, inclusion, equity, and access. And there are 4 objectives in that part of the plan that relate to implementing an age-appropriate anti-bias education, ensuring access to culturally inclusive materials, expanding our school settings and events so that they honor and celebrate diversity, and then reviewing and growing our hiring practices for greater outreach. So the leadership team members worked with each other in each of these 5 strand areas, and as a whole committee, we ended up defining 8 different tasks to be implemented next school year. So the first task targeted purpose, communications, and alignment, and part of this task was actually completed by the committee at the end of this past school year. So we did work together as a team to define equity in alignment with current board policy. And we defined educational equity as all students having equitable access to the educational resources and support they need to achieve their full potential. We said in District 64, students' needs will not go unmet due to race, ethnicity, dominant language, disability, gender, sexual orientation, religion, family background, and/or socioeconomic status. So the next piece of this task is actually related to communication, and Dr. Olson will include this in his communications with our schools and community members in the fall. Task 2 is all about data collection and review. So our second task is to develop a district data team. And this team would identify the data that we want to review that data, and then identify how our current structures might be impacting students. So the areas that we will look at are student achievement data, behavior and discipline data, data related to program and activity participation. And then we also, as you know, in the district, administer student and parent surveys during the school year, for example, the 5E or our climate and safety survey, and this feedback would also be incorporated into our data review. Our third task is to develop a scope and sequence for staff and community learning opportunities, really around topics related to equity and implicit bias, social emotional learning, and inclusive classroom practices. So as a committee, we talked about the value of a foundational sequence for teachers, especially for teachers who are new to the district. And we'll be planning this year a short session at new teacher orientation, and then looking to offer a sequence for teachers and for interested families over the course of next school year. Our fourth task came out of a commitment to sharing resources across the district so that we could build an awareness of diversity within our school community. Our targets are to create a monthly diversity or equity focus, to share the interfaith calendar across the district so that we honor all faith traditions, and to share a voluntary survey with families so we have a better understanding of what family traditions are in our district. Our fifth task related to inclusive practices, specifically around the holidays and other annual traditions. The questions we want to ask ourselves are our practices at the buildings inclusive? Are any students excluded by our current practices? And this work would happen at the building level and in grade level teams. Our sixth task is to review our current books, the books in our learning resource collections, in our classroom libraries, our read-alouds, our shared texts. We want to ensure that our resources are inclusive, that they're representative and diverse, and that students can see themselves in their studies at school. We know that when students connect to the curriculum, that they feel valued, that they're more engaged, and that in turn helps them be more successful. Our seventh task has actually already been underway this summer under the leadership of Dr. Frost. So when the pandemic began, we were in the process of exploring an SEL screener to identify students who may need more support. A team finalized this work this summer, and we'll launch our screener with staff this fall. Our SEL committee will reconvene, and I'll keep you apprised of what happens with that, Dr. Frost, and we'll identify district-wide resources for supporting students, and we'll be communicating that with all teachers. Task 8 focuses on fostering a sense of belonging in our school communities. So we plan to develop a student advisory committee, or perhaps capitalize on some existing school structures at each school to really get feedback from a student perspective. We want to provide opportunities for affinity group connections in the district and for community learning. So for example, celebrating cultures and communities district-wide. And we also have a commitment to expanding our language translations of district and school messages. And then those are our 8 tasks, and over the course of the school year, our strand leaders will support the implementation of this plan. And members of the larger equity leadership team will be involved in subcommittee work, and our whole committee will come together at least twice as a whole group to share our progress and to set new goals for next year. And so that's it. As I mentioned, we have some of our strand leaders here tonight and some members of our committee, and we're happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
I was just going to say, as somebody who was on the strategic planning process as a community member at the time, and when we were developing this part of the strategic plan for the district, it's just very rewarding to see this then be presented tonight, and knowing that the district is taking actionable steps towards making the district more inclusive and a welcoming environment for all students and faculty and staff.
So I was on the committee, I was on the strand groups, I guess, system strand. Eric was the strand leader. I just want to say that Dr. Dubale was just a great leader and kept everybody on task, gave everybody homework assignments, and it didn't seem like we wasted any time. And, you know, you guys see this like presentation, but there are very specific, you know, deadlines and other things like that that were developed. You just, I think that work is going to be done, as they said, throughout the next few years.
Just a quick question. The SEL screener that was mentioned, so if I'm understanding this correctly, that's for staff to use?
It's for staff to use. And Leanne, do you want to talk a little bit about the work the committee did this summer?
So the screener that we chose is called SABRS, and it's through FastBridge. We already use FastBridge assessments for benchmarking for students. I'm sorry, for progress monitoring for students. So it was a nice complement, but actually there's 2 components to the SEL screener. There is a staff component, and we already built into our Wednesdays. So I think it's the first Wednesday in October that our staff will complete the screeners for students. And then there's also a self-assessment, and that will be for students from grades 3 through 8th.
Is there a cost associated with this?
With the screener? Yeah, we actually already own FastBridge. We use it for other reading, our early literacy and our early math progress monitoring, and some progress monitoring for our older students. And this is just another component of that program, so it's included in that.
Yeah, I have a couple of things. I think the one thing that concerns me is that, you know, that we don't be exclusionary, that we do truly follow the inclusive thing, because, you know, I think there was some attempt last year to change, for example, Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day, and really by doing that, you're excluding one group to be more inclusive instead of welcoming everybody in and having it balanced. You know, so I just want to make sure we're not using this as a buzzway to be exclusionary of certain people, that we truly are welcoming everybody into that circle. So I think that's one thing that concerns me, and making sure that we bear that in mind as we go through this. The other thing that troubles, is there anything, you know, there was a lot of buzz around, I think it was Oak Park High School or something like that, around changes in grade and approaches, and, you know, experimenting with ways of, I think, of not having to do coursework and certain things towards a grade, and, you know, that actually ended up backfiring, because people who most needed to do the coursework to stay on track and most needed the help didn't do it, and then the grades, you know, and they didn't get any benefit out of it. So I just want to make sure that we're not experimenting in any way like that with the children, to that we're truly, you know, trying to bring people in and not having some adverse effect of trying to experiment anything around this. So could you give us some confidence that that's not going to happen?
Yeah, I think, I know that some districts have tied their equity movement to other initiatives related to grading and reporting. We actually have two separate initiatives in District 64. We're looking at standards-based reporting as part of the strategic plan, which is really just looking at how we communicate student progress around standards, right? So right now, we all get grades, right? But we're not 100% sure what's in a grade. Did your grade go up because you brought in an extra box of Kleenex, for example? Or is your grade an A because you met this standard, right? So and we'll talk more about that over the course of the next couple of years because that's part of the strategic plan. But changing the way that you report grading doesn't change the rigor of it. Right, and I think that's what you're speaking to. Like, how do we maintain?
I would be very much in favor of making it rigorous and biased grading. I'm very much in favor of that.
So we have
just because you bring an apple to the teacher doesn't mean you should.
Right.
Totally
So
agree.
we have a rigorous grading system now, but the grading system, your grades sort of depend on your teacher's grading structure. Right? Mm-hmm. And so one of the movements in education now is reporting about reporting out on whether or not you've met the standard, right? And the standard is rigorous. So it's something we'll be talking about, but in our district, those are our equity piece and our standards-based reporting are two separate initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I don't think that came up in any of the discussions. And I think you meant unbiased, not biased, right?
I said unbiased.
Okay. I just
No,
wanted to make sure that
it sounded like.
It did sound like you said biased.
The way I'm leaning to the mic, but no, very much unbiased grading. But the one thing that I've seen this in the business world too, is you can't do D, E, and I without really focusing on the I, the inclusivity of bringing everybody in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just that's the one thing I'm concerned about is making sure we're bringing people into the circle, not using it as a reason to exclude people.
Right.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I'm glad you brought up, because it is Oak Park River Forest, and they recently came out with some surprising guidelines that just, aren't occurring in other nearby school districts. And I don't work there, so I don't know, everything behind that, but we don't have any interest in bringing those practices here.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So I think everyone at least should, but I think we do strive for equity. I'm glad that there's an actual plan to make sure it happens. My question is, when you were going through this process, all of you, did you find that we were super failing on our equity? Did you find us to be middle of the road? Do we have so much work to do because we were so behind? Where did this district stand on its natural progression of equity before this program and this group was put into place to make sure that it advances forward and does so quicker and in more concise and more defined manner? Where were we just naturally?
Well, I don't know in terms of what a scale is for equity, what the scale would be for measuring it, but in each of these 8 areas, each of these 8 tasks, we felt like we had room to grow. One of the reasons why one of the tasks is collecting the data and looking at the data is because we want to be real clear about where we are. So that's part of the process.
Room to grow is never going to end.
Right,
So it's
right.
not, there's no we made it to this
Right.
to this project, to this process. This process is continually ongoing, and we're never going to reach the end because it's always going to be striving for something better, and because the world just changes and it continually evolves. My question more so is, if I was part of this group, does anyone in your group feel like bright-eyed, like, oh my God, this district sucked before we got involved here, or were we naturally kind of there? We just need a little bit of direction and a push. That's where I kind of want to, I want to gauge where this community and district was prior to making a concerted effort to making sure that all these areas and topics get touched upon.
Yeah, so I don't think, I'll let Lori answer too, but I don't think Lori or I ever heard that comment that, oh my God, we're so out of whack. In talking to a lot of other districts, at least in our area, I'd call us a little behind. A year ago, when Lori and I were doing a lot of the research of a consultant and how we wanted to move forward, when I would talk to other districts, everybody was in year 1 or 2. And so we're like 1 year behind that, So I do think we're a little behind, but it's not that far.
Good.
If that helps. And Lori, I don't know if...
That's, yeah, I agree.
I started volunteering at different schools and managed to work my way around the district 15, 16 years ago. And what I'm happy to see is we're putting together a plan across the district, because a lot of the administrators in the different schools had somewhat of a plan and they were doing something, but there never was really a total integration or a standard across the district, and I appreciate this. I worked on a project some years ago at Field where they had, and I didn't realize it, there were 27 sets of parents from 27 different countries who were there, and they were the first generation in the United States. And you may remember they filmed a bunch of the children talking about their different cultures and their backgrounds from those 27 different countries, and I was involved in that project a little bit. And that's where I first got the idea that, language integration, language barriers, I think, well, they don't really exist in Park Ridge. And then I got bright-eyed and found out that they did. And that a lot of our children in this district were going home speaking their parents' native language and coming back to school and speaking English, so this equity program is nice, and I appreciate all of your hard work.
Well, you're sitting next to a kid who went to to Jefferson, who, when he went to first grade, didn't speak English. My parents were Greek from off the boat, and I only spoke Greek at home. And the teacher, Mrs. Abel, first grade teacher, remember her, she told my dad, that's our job. We'll teach him. You go home. And that was it.
And that'll be in the time capsule when Tony finds it. So, just a question and a comment. So when I was glad to see communication's going to be offered in more languages, do we look at the languages our families speak and how we decide offering that, or how does that work?
Yes. So we have a list of languages that are spoken across the district. Our top 3 are Polish, Spanish, and Ukrainian, and Greek is closely behind that. And the principals actually have been using a newsletter format that it makes translating very easy. You probably notice in your school newsletter up in the right-hand corner, there's a place where you can translate your newsletter into any language. And one of the things that we had also talked about as a committee is translating things like our registration documents, translating things like our report cards. So right now we use translators to help us when people need to access those documents, but if we could have them readily available in our most commonly spoken languages, that would be really helpful to families.
Thank God you guys weren't around. I translated my report card.
I bet you did.
Yes! I was just
F,
that
it's
about
A. It means fantastic.
So there might be some disappointed children, but we'll have some better informed adults, right?
I will say, the first time I realized that there was such a language barrier was for COVID. When it very first happened, those first few weeks when the people were kind of just lingering, like, what are we doing? And teachers were getting stuff up and running. I just thought everybody was, my neighbors, I'd say hi and bye, but I never really spoke with them. And then I never knew why. I would say hi and bye, but the reason was they didn't speak English. Their kids spoke English, but they didn't. So when COVID happened, I was like, my kids are on this e-learning, and your kids are at the park. What's going on here? Because now my kids want to go to the park. And she said to me, I have 4 kids. I don't speak English. I don't know what they're saying. I can't read it. And I was like, what? And she said, they speak it, but there's no school. And I said, no, there's school. And that was the first time I was like, And then she said, yeah, all of us. And I was like, yeah, there's like 20 of you. And so I said, well, they have to go to school. And so I printed their stuff, and they sat at my table, despite the distancing. We sat there and they did school. But that was the first time I was like, wow.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
all joking aside, it's fantastic because my brother and I were basically left to navigate it ourselves. Our parents had no clue. They had no idea how to at the time. So I think it's really important. And I'm sure it's probably more so these days than it was back, in the 70s. There's probably so much more diversity right now where it's probably more needed now than it was then. So I applaud that.
I'm with Tom. Mine were Italian. Yeah, they did not a lick of it.
I did forget to thank you as well, the committee, and some people dedicated to come as well tonight. So thank you for the work. Appreciate it.
Are we going to translate to American for the
Carrollton.
Englishman?
So one actually more question comment. Sure. So the data part, I think was, we look at aggregate data, a lot of times what's presented to the board. And I do think though, if you're going to look at it by different groups or that, I assume then we're going to look at, is there something we need to change or programming or a different initiative to help that group?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Good. All right, thank you, everyone. All right, really appreciate it. All right, there we go. Yes, that deserves a round of applause. Thank you. Okay. Okay, all right, let's move on to our next agenda item. All right, so Adam's going back to the podium, and he is presenting on the budget. Dr. Adam is going to the podium.
Thank you. So this would be the first phase of 3 phases, starting to talk about the budget. This is the preliminary budget. We're basically, we're following up after meeting with department heads, building leaders, starting to take a look at revenues and expenditures at a very high level. And then from this point forward, I'll come back in July with a more formalized tentative budget that the board will discuss and approve. We'll put it, go through the proper notices, publish it in the paper, have it on public display, and then we'll come back in September where the board adopts the final budget. So overall with this budget, this is not a true balanced budget. It's balanced based on ISBE standards, and the major reason is because construction. So some areas, so overall on the revenue side, we're looking at a little over $85.2 million on the revenue side, about $109.5 million on the expenditure side. As my team and I start to develop and really dive into some areas, we'll be looking at the O&M budget on both sides and seeing where we, looking with our contractors, look at where we can either trim or make the most with both our internal staff and some of those areas that we outsource with. Transportation is one that we're going to totally take a look at. We haven't received any numbers as far as reimbursement on either the regular education side or the special education side. In addition to the capital projects, the $38 million projects is going to be split between 2 fiscal years. So when we come back here in July, we'll have a better idea of what was spent up through June 30th, which will be part of that last fiscal year. So then when we're moving ahead, we can put a number in there that's closer and more solid. But right now we have the placeholder of a little over 21 million. So so that's, and then in your packet you have the detailed breakdown of the revenues and expenditures, similar to the way that the board's looking to see it. So if you have questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But just kind of keep in mind, preliminary. This is the first stage. With that being taken into consideration, know that we have 3 bargaining units two of which we are just kind of beginning bargaining. So PRTAA and SSC, we do not have a contract with, so we don't have, exact salaries. When we come in September, we should be closer to resolution. So this is similar to last year when we did not have figures actually with all three unions, at least our largest union and the one that, the biggest expense from salaries and benefits, PREA, those salaries are set not only for this year, but for future years. So if you have some specific questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those.
Got just a couple of questions.
Sure.
One is, does this include any interest that might need to be paid if Cook County doesn't give us our tax money on time, which I know you most probably know a little bit about what's going on there, and maybe you can help us understand what the current state and the current situation is with the...
So no, not at this point. So just to kind of bring everyone up to speed, the Cook County assessor, who, by the way, is engaged in a primary June 28th against his opposition is the person who runs the MWRD district. So could be an interesting race, but we'll see. And it's also it's the first time when the primary is actually in June, where you're getting closer to the summer and other kind of things. The current assessor, Fritz Kagi, wants to he's doing a long-awaited software conversion. Unfortunately, by doing that conversion, it's going to significantly delay the second round of property tax bills, both as far as sending those out and receiving those. I've heard rumors on both sides as to when those bills are actually going to come in. And once we get more details, I definitely am going to come to the board and show some different scenarios. We've started talking, my colleagues and I within IASBO, CSBOs, of trying to figure out what different districts are doing. I've met with our treasurer, Tom Elbeck, and our group within Maine Township are going to put together a meeting with the treasurer over the next month to kind of see, okay, what does this mean for a specific district with cash flow in individual funds? How does debt service look? What happens if payments don't come until December? What happens if payments don't come into January? So there are a lot of different scenarios. As I always try to do, I don't want to panic anyone until we get to that point. But to your point, I mean, it's definitely something that we're aware of, and we're starting to have conversations with. And I think applying an appropriate amount of political pressure to just make everyone aware of what this is, what this is, and what this could potentially do to school districts.
Right, and by that, Mr. Kagi could end up costing us money here, basically, because we'd have to take out a short term.
If we're issuing tax anticipation warrants, that would be the case.
And what sort of interest rate above prime do they have to pay? You don't know? So, but we could be paying.
Not at this time, especially with the Fed moving interest rates, and them saying that, they want to, it was up 3/4 of a point. They're saying they want to double the interest rates before 2022 is up. There's a lot of moving pieces to this.
Yeah, so that could end up obviously costing us more than, and the higher those interest rates go, and whatever it is above prime that those warrants would cost us for however long. Yeah, it just obviously is a major problem that they're doing this at this point in time. So.
Well, and there's, for any of you who have had any kind of interaction with the assessor's office, there's no doubt that a software conversion is necessary, but to do it at a time when you're going to delay everybody's property tax bills that extensively, in addition to doing it in the year when they're reassessing Chicago, which is the largest batch of parcels to assess, is not ideal.
Seems bad timing. But my second question is where would this budget put us in terms of the surplus at in terms of at the end of the year, the fund balance? Where would it put us at the end of next year versus the projections that you were showing us, a few months ago with all-day kindergarten?
I have not run that scenario with this budget.
Okay.
Just knowing basically that it is a prelim and there's some, detailed work to do. As we get closer to the official, I would definitely want to take a look at those projections and see, where that shakes out. But at this point, I'm not I'm not prepared to do that.
Okay. I know we did pass
Mm-hmm.
the new policy, right? I think it was.
We're keeping the 30% of expenditures.
30% of
Yeah,
expenditures, so-
we're definitely keeping our eyes on that.
Okay.
And as I know I mentioned to the board before, after we get through this fiscal year, and, complete full-day kindergarten, implement full-day kindergarten, complete the construction at the 5 elementary schools and Jefferson, complete the move, sell ESC. The intention is to bring, for next year, for next school year, for the 23-24 school year, the intention is to bring a true balanced budget here, and definitely feel like that is practical.
So that leads
Thank
me
you.
into, so I have multiple questions, but I'm going to reserve to just email you on them, so.
Yeah, no,
don't waste a lot of
please
time
do.
here.
Thank you.
But one of my main concerns is, I know we don't have final numbers
Mm-hmm.
on everything, but we have a very good general idea of what full-day kindergarten is costing us. I mean, it's not going to go to 70 million.
No.
We can go off of the number we have now.
Mm-hmm.
We know what a lot of this is going to be. I don't feel comfortable waiting till next year to have a true balance. I'd like to balance the budget this year with the numbers we currently have on an annual basis. I mean, not putting them into this budget and not taking them into consideration when it's money we're spending today and money we know we're going to have to spend for the next, 10, 15 years. I don't see how it benefits this district to wait a year to have them put into our budget to see if we can balance it.
Sorry not to interrupt. What I mean by that is with, for example, expenditures of 109 million, knowing that more than 20 million of that is coming from the capital projects, there's no way that we can make that up on the revenue side. Can I cut down the expenditures and look at the revenues and bring those so it's closer? Yes, definitely. Will it be closer when we look at July and September? Absolutely. But to make up for $20 million of capital projects in this fiscal year is not. We're gonna balance it by using fund balance. And that's why by IS, I always want to differentiate because I want to be transparent. I want to differentiate between Illinois State Board's definition of a balanced budget and a true balanced budget. The way I always look at a balanced budget is revenues exceed expenditures. That's a balanced budget. ISBE is saying as long as you have fund balance, whether it's 30%, 50%, 70%, as long as you have fund balance, you're balanced. Which is when the district had much higher fund balances. That's what the district did for a number of years because the board didn't want to negatively impact taxpayers, didn't want to assume more debt, and was paying with some of those smaller construction projects with that method.
Yeah, and I think we planned this though, right? Because it was for this year to be deficit spending because we knew that the bonds wasn't going to pay all of the all-day kindergarten. So I think I applaud Adam's going for this next year in terms of doing a true balanced budget and getting our revenues to exceed our expenditures, at least from a planning standpoint, after we get through this. Because we have to pay the all-day kindergarten bills out of the fund balance as well as the bonds.
Yeah, but we
only bonded, how much was it?
But we know what it's going to cost us to employ 8 more teachers.
True.
We know what it's going to cost us to buy furniture for 8 more classrooms. We know what it's going to cost us. And we know all these numbers. They should be in the budget. And if the budget's upside down, it's upside down. But to call it a balanced budget with a asterisk to it doesn't really help, at least in my opinion. So I'd like to know, I'd like to see us take into consideration all these expenses. I'd like to see us, I don't know.
I think Adam is being very clear that he is not, in his estimation, calling it a true, it's not a zero-based budget. It's a base budget based on ISBO's definition of base. So like Adam is not mincing, he's clearly stating like this, there is,
I'm not saying
deficit.
I'm not saying he's doing anything wrong.
No,
by all means, if that's how it came off, I want to take that. I want to make that very clear. I'm just saying for our benefit, at least for my benefit, and I know for many other people's benefit, maybe present two, maybe present one on how it's gonna, I mean, because we know what it's gonna look like, and I don't want to wait till next year to find out that maybe we can't even balance it next year.
So I guess,
We may not be able to balance it the year after that.
So-
We may not be able to balance it the year after that.
If I hear you correctly, I think what you're talking about is, we previously looked at financial projections moving out 5 years. So this budget for this year is not going to be truly balanced. However, you want to take a look and see, okay, with these figures being in here, how does that impact our financial projections? Do I have that correct?
Yeah, because
Maybe said another way, if you take up the one-time cost for all-day kindergarten in the coming year, is it balanced at that point? Was that what you're trying to get to?
Well, no, because, I mean,
No?
the one-time cost has to be, at least spread it out, or, I mean, do some, I'm not in that world. I'm not a, what's it called, a CPA or, accountant or a bookkeeper. But to not take it into consideration at all, and then say, well, this isn't going to be a true balanced budget, we'll worry about it next year, and have the number not show up in this year's budget, and then have us vote to approve a budget that doesn't have these numbers in there, when we already know what those numbers are and how they're, I don't know, I don't know how I would vote for that.
So maybe also so you know, we haven't had a true balanced budget in many years in this district. So we've been going by ISB's standard. Adam's taking us to a higher level.
Okay, well, I wasn't going to say it, but it was okay when we had $60 million sitting in the reserve, because an untrue balanced budget with $60 million in reserve is balanced.
Yeah.
Well, we no longer have that reserve. So now it's more important to have a balanced budget and be very, very careful on a yearly basis before it gets so far ahead of us that we can't reel it back in. So I'm just being a little, normally, I didn't speak much when it came to budgets because, there's $60, $70 million laying around in the background. We could make a mistake here and there and we're all right. We took that away from ourselves when we voted for full-day kindergarten. When we voted to spend $22 million, or I'm sorry, 40s, whatever it is now. I think it's more than 35 now.
37.
Right. So when we voted for that, I mean, it took the ability to lay back a little bit away from us. So we have to be a lot more vigilant with the numbers. And I just think that we're running a big risk just saying, okay, we're going to wait till next year to do it. So that's all I'm saying. If there's a way to inform us of something that we should know about sooner rather than later, I'd like to know about it sooner rather than later.
Understood.
You said it best when you said, put the numbers in there, including the 5-year projection.
Okay.
can I ask a question regarding full-day kindergarten? This has come up, I think, several times now at this point, about looking at a specific breakdown of the costs associated with full-day kindergarten in order to parcel out full-day kindergarten versus the new ESC. And just to get a sense of, obviously, we have things broken down by fund balances here and going through the different series of funds, et cetera. But for a more digestible format of specifically just the full-day K and ESC move, just to get a sense of where those numbers are at and what we spent in this fiscal year and then projected into the next fiscal year.
So you're asking to differentiate full-day K from Jefferson?
So I believe that has been asked by a few of the board members previously.
If it's okay, I think I've asked for it several times, but I also, I think also would like to see, because like things like Washington, there was an extra classroom there that really wasn't all-day kindergarten. So I think we have to like be fair there as well in terms of like if there's instances like that where we're adding that really wasn't necessary for all-day kindergarten. I think what we're trying to understand as a board and make sure the community understands is here's the cost of all-day kindergarten, here's the cost of the other capital improvements that we made, so everybody's clear and transparent about that.
So I think the confusion there is that, yes, full-day kindergarten should have its own number, and everything else that we did extra should have its own number. But I want everyone to be clear that when full-day kindergarten was presented to us, it was presented to us with all this extra stuff mixed in. So I didn't get the benefit as a board member to make a decision based on the separation of the two. Every decision we were asked was full-day kindergarten, this is what we have to do to get it. Oh, and by the way, since we're doing this, we're going to add an extra few feet here for this and move stuff here for that. We never, as a board, made a decision on, let's do full-day kindergarten, let's not do this. Not one of those, and I will ask any board member to go back to any of the videos and see where that was differentiated, where we made a decision that was separated, and none of them were. Everything was lumped together. Not pointing fingers as to who did that, but it was all lumped together. Every decision we made for the $37 million we're spending was all under the umbrella of doing full-day kindergarten, and other things were added. Since we're doing this now, let's do this as well. Since we're doing this, let's do that. So, but it was never, you can do full-day kindergarten and not do the ESC move. You can do full-day kindergarten and not add an extra room for our computer department. And actually, at one meeting,
I'll respectfully
but actually at one meeting, I asked to separate them so that we could stop part of it to save an extra 10 or $11 million. And the vote was, I think, 6-1. No one agreed with me to do it. So, yes, I would love to see the difference, but I want everyone to be clear that we as a board voted for all of it.
Tom,
Yes.
I can certainly ask you to go back and see the video of when we did the tour at Washington, and if you watch the video there, you'll see that I asked for a breakdown in that, and everybody thought it was a good idea. We never received one. That was way before we made a final vote. I think I also challenged at one point, if you go back to a video in the fall, and asked the architect, are you sure you could do this for $24.5 million? And I think he said yes, and give me a number.
Well, I'm not saying that you...
So I know, but as a board, the board as a group passed those motions, and it is what it is.
Yep.
I'm just asking now, today, and I think Nikki's asking now today, we still want the community to understand what they got and what cost.
And I just want the community to know that us as a board approved it all.
Yes, we did
did.
approve it all.
Yes.
And we did approve it all together. But I think all we're saying now is, not that it needed to be separate, because I will go back and refer to previous meetings that we held, that the ESC move had to happen. From a building safety standpoint, flooding, et cetera, that move had to happen.
Accessibility.
So, yes, they all went in together and they were lumped together during that time at that plan. All I'm asking now is that when we come back to our community members, we can say and parcel out specifically of that 37 million, 28 went to this, and, just have a clearer breakdown, knowing that it was put together, but just for reporting purposes, be able to report out what went to what.
So I think we understand the request. I don't know if the board needs to keep rehashing decisions we've already made. Maybe if we can move on, if the board's ready.
Fine, then we do know that this coming year, for the budget that is going to be presented to us in August, we do know that we will absolutely have 8 more salaries, because we are starting full-day kindergarten in August.
Right.
So those and everything that goes along with them, workers' comp, insurance, everything should be in that budget.
Agree.
So that shouldn't wait for the following year.
No.
Because that's going to be stuff we're going to be spending that moment.
Correct.
The tables and chairs that are going to be purchased for this coming year should be in this coming year's budget, not in future years' budgets, because they're going to be used now.
Yep.
So those are things that there's, you and I could email you what I
Yeah,
expect
no,
to see.
please do.
Okay.
I always encourage you to.
So are there any other budget questions? And this is the first iteration, as Adam said.
Correct.
I do have one. If the board was thinking about ultimately bringing something up that in the future that might happen, like mid-year, should we start, is there, never mind, I'll most probably wait for, but you've got time here to change and amend this until September, right?
Well, yeah, it will be changed.
And
It
amended.
will be changed multiple times, and it's not even amended, because nothing's amended until we pass the official budget. We pass the official budget in September, and that's the budget. Now, after we do that, we can always amend the budget after that, but what happens between, early in March when we start building it through September, we pass the official budget, there's a lot of reworking and going back with numbers and meeting with people and re-meeting with people and looking at all that.
Okay, thank you.
I'll send you some questions. I have a history of having emergency board meetings to discuss budgets.
I've heard that.
I'll send you a lot of questions.
Thanks, Larry.
Yep.
Okay. All right, thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is to talk about the lawn care. And so I think Tony is back up to do that. Did I skip one?
No, we moved that up and read it already.
And we
Seven
deleted
moved.
7.
Denise.
We're on A8 now.
Thank you, though. I have done that before, so thank you.
We're good?
Yes.
This will be brief, it's just kind of an update. One of the many things that my department, myself, are trying to go towards is, talk soon, is a better lawn care program. Since I've been here for about a year now, talk about complaints and talk about improvements, whatnot. One of the many things that comes across my desk is the lack of weed control that we have. So I started looking into a few things. I saw that a few years back, there's been several attempts to try and bring back weed control. I'm a big fan of it, and I think many in the room here are. I know there's been concerns over the years about what is used, what type of products, good, bad, indifferent, going green, that type of thing. So what I did is I realized that a lot of our properties are shared with the park districts, for instance. So for the past several months, I've been working with the superintendent of Parks and Recs, Terry Wolf, and we meet on a regular basis about how we could help each other out in many different ways, not just lawns, but anything that might come our way, because we do share the properties, both with intergovernmental agreements and also our playgrounds and the baseball fields and so forth. So at their request as well, they were successful a few years back in coming up with a program, and their lawns are much improved, and they're asking if we could partner with them, and ironically, that's where I was going as well. We've got a new team in our grounds department that I think is showing already what they're capable of doing versus what we've done in the past few years, and I've spoken with those two young guys, and they're eager to learn and grow and be licensed, because using pesticides you have to be licensed. But instead of just throwing our guys out there or trying to fast forward ourselves, I thought that I could present to you folks that the Park District wants to partner with us. They've got a good team. They've got a good program. I think if I can mirror what they do, get our guys trained with them, utilize their equipment, they utilize ours. And again, sharing the same properties, I think it's beneficial. So I think the neighbors are going to appreciate it. I know the sports programs are going to appreciate it, and I know that our PE programs are going to appreciate it. It's going to take us a few years. I don't know if anyone here has ever tackled a lawn before, but it doesn't happen overnight. And when you use green products, it is a slower process, but you can get there. And I think with having a good, strong, young team like we have now in our department, that I think that the district probably has not had in a number of years, is going to show the difference. So with that, any questions that anybody may have?
How much?
I'm sorry?
How much?
Well, and that's just it. I did look at the True Green and what that would cost versus doing it in-house. I don't have an exact cost in the in-house, but obviously when you use your own people, you've got some pretty fixed costs there already. The True Green would have been in the tens of thousands of dollars annually, depending on how much you want to do, 3, 4 applications or more. It's not going to be anywhere near that by mirroring with the Park District. And they're very aggressive with the program, so they actually want to do our large fields. So it would be pay for the product. Teach our guys to take care of the front of our properties and the beds, flower beds and that kind of thing, right? So I will get a cost to you guys, or at least a close estimate of what the Park District spends, and then try and crunch that to what maybe our fields might cost us or our properties. But I thought the True Green would probably have been too aggressive for the community and probably too expensive for us at this point in time. So.
Do you feel confident that our staff, so the process you're talking about that the Park District uses is great.
Right.
It's greener, safer, healthier. But the community needs to understand that
right.
It's a process.
It is a process.
The first year, it might look really bad.
Yeah.
It might look like we're doing absolutely nothing.
Right.
Where in reality, we're doing a lot.
Right.
It's just the process. The first year goes real bad. The second year gets a little better. If you do it right, by the third year, you should see a substantial difference in the positive.
Right.
But it's a 2-3 year process to get it right, because you're now trying to use the grass itself
right.
to suffocate the weeds. Mm-hmm. The healthier and stronger the natural grass is, it's harder for weeds to grow there. Mm-hmm. However, it's a commitment and it takes work. So do you feel that our staff is capable of that task? Because it's a gargantuan task. If done right, awesome benefits.
100%. And working with Terry Wolf from the Park District and putting our team in his hands when they do their first couple of applications while we school our guys and get them licensed is the way to go. I'm not going to just take some green guys and try and figure out this process and make the mistakes, because you know what happens if you over-fertilize. You can burn what you have and ruin it or make it worse, like you say. Make no mistake about it, it's going to take 2-3 years. It's going to take a learned process. But I think with the help of the Park District and their want to help us, because they benefit as much as we do, and I think the kids will benefit from it and the sports programs and so forth, I think the word of mouth itself is going to take care of itself with the community, because they're excited that I'm having this conversation with you tonight. Okay?
Niles in on this for like the Emerson and Jefferson?
Ridge Park District actually has the rights to the soccer field there, so there's no Niles involvement, unfortunately.
So Tony, what's been done over the last few years? Because
nothing.
Because it can't get any worse.
It can actually, and here's how.
Okay, because my daughter has been playing soccer at Emerson, and I can tell you it was like a field of dandelions.
Well,
yeah, it's not a field of dreams, guys. I'll tell you that much right now.
Let's clarify. Emerson's fields aren't handled by.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to say. So
Emerson's
understand.
Fields are handled by PRS.
So the Park District,
the soccer club.
Park Ridge Park District invested several hundreds of thousands of dollars in the Emerson soccer field, okay? They do maintain it, just like I said. I've got maps back in my office where I cut this part and Terry cuts that part, okay? So we share a lot. I'm serious. It's broken down like that. So, but Emerson's soccer field is not touched by us. We do the perimeter, he does the interior.
But if I'm not mistaken, it's not even touched by the Park District.
Yeah, it is.
I think the field is taken care of by PRSC, the soccer organization.
They do a little bit, but it's cut. What I'm talking about is just cut in the lawn care itself. If there's any lawn care that's been done, it's just cutting.
PRSC, if I'm not mistaken.
The Park District actually cuts it, but maybe it may be working through them. But regardless,
whatever it is, it was a field of dandelions. So.
The bottom line is simply this: the sports programs are. And Terry's proven it to me, we're at risk of losing the fields. Emerson is certainly one of them. Now, that has implications of sports programs, and that has revenue implications. Well, we want to be a good partner with Park Ridge, but we will not let them maintain the field better to make the grass grow better and get these weeds under control. So that's one of their biggest interests, obviously, is Emerson. But more than that, you've got large fields at Carpenter, Washington, Franklin. The list goes on. So I think it's time for us to revisit this. I think it's time for us to get serious and put a good lawn program together. I'm confident that we have a new grounds team, and I think if we partner with them and mirror, like I put in the packet today, that what we're going to use, it's very transparent, it's very obvious. It's already being used on half of our properties that we share right now. I say we do the other half.
Okay,
But
I'm
no-
supportive. Thank you, thank you.
None of this plan has anything in it that affords the Park District use of our property because they're going to help us with this. It's
No,
not tied
no,
to-
there's nothing that's going to say, I'm going to give you this for that. What their interest is protecting the future of play and bringing and retaining their programs that they bring them revenue. So the interest for us is the obvious part. Better aesthetics, better playing fields, the allergies, to your point of dandelions, the list goes on, right? So.
I'm supportive. Thanks for researching that and bringing it to us.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tony. Okay, all right, we're moving on to our next item, and this is our discussion and approval of administrative and exempt salary increases.
So the board has been very generous with some of our other employee groups in terms of how we have continued to give them the appropriate raises to make this continue to be a destination district for all staff. Tonight, we're bringing the raises for our administrative and exempt staff, which does not include me, but is all other administrative and then the exempt staff as well. And you have that information in front of you.
Any questions before the motion? Okay, you're on.
I move that the Board of Education of Community Consolidated School District 64, Park Ridge-Niles, Illinois, approve salary increases for administrative and exempt employees effective July 1, 2022, at a total cost not to exceed $56,680.
Gareth had the motion.
Second.
Carol has the second. Any further discussion from the board?
I have one question. This is your recommendation? You did your due diligence, you reviewed everyone's file, and you feel very confident with this number?
I do.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out, this is a different motion it's in line with what's on the topic on the agenda, but it is different than what is in.
Little different wording there.
Yes, just to acknowledge that for the public.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you. Okay. All right, it sounds like we are ready for the vote.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Sotos?
Yes.
Celis?
Yes.
Levinsky, yes. Whitovich?
Yes.
Pearl?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. All right. Our next topic, the board has we talked about this the last meeting, and so we are just officially approving a settlement agreement with PREA. So I think we can probably just start with the motion.
I'll just do it. Thanks. Bless you. I move that the Board of Education of Community Consolidated School District 64, Park Ridge-Niles, Illinois, approve the settlement agreement and general release by and between the Board of Education and the PREA, Dana Randall, Lillian Ludkowski, Christy Janicki, Cheryl Williams, George Luxton, and Missy Michon.
Second.
Okay. Carol had the motion and Nikki had the second. Any further discussion from the board? Okay, roll call.
Sotos?
Yes.
Whitovich?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Pearl?
Yes.
Levinsky, yes. Celis?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you for those individuals. All right. All right, now we're on to the personnel report. How about any questions or?
And maybe I'll just put out first, obviously Joel's not here tonight. He and I did review the report. He did not feel there was anything specific to point out to the board.
If we're ready for a motion, I could just do it.
Okay,
Anyone?
thanks, Carol.
Okay, I move that the Board of Education of Community Consolidated School District 64, Park Ridge-Niles, Illinois, approve the personnel report dated June 16, 2022, noting that the personnel report is based on the recommendation of the superintendent and not upon the board's direct knowledge regarding any of the specific individuals selected for employment.
Second.
So Carol had the motion and Phyllis had the second. Board discussion, lots of summer hirings on the report. Okay, let's do the vote.
Wojtovich?
Yes.
Pearl?
Yes.
Lubinsky, yes. Sotos?
Yes.
Salas?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next, we have the consent agenda. Does anyone want to take anything out of that consent agenda? No? Okay.
I move that the Board of Education of Community Consolidated School District 64, Park Ridge-Niles, Illinois, approve the consent agenda for June 16th, 2022, which includes bills, payrolls, and benefits, approval of the financial update for the period ending April 30th, 2022, approval of Resolution 1291 for safety hazards, parentheses, transportation, approval of District 64 fire officers, and destruction of audio closed recordings, parentheses, none.
All right, Gareth had the motion.
Second.
Phyllis has the second. Okay, any discussion from the board? Okay.
Wojtovich?
Yes.
Pearl?
Yes.
Salas?
Yes.
Sotos?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Lubinsky, yes. Motion carries.
Okay. And I think for our next approval of minutes, was everyone, I think everyone was here for that meeting. Okay, how about we take the motion?
I move that the Board of Education of Community Consolidated School District 64, Park Ridge-Niles, Illinois, approve the minutes from the closed meeting on May 19th, 2022, and the regular meeting on May 19th, 2022.
Second.
All right, Gareth had the motion and Nikki had the second. Any changes or any comments on the minutes from the board? Okay.
Salas?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Lubinsky, yes. Pearl?
Yes.
Sotos?
Yes.
Wojtovich?
Yes.
Riles isn't here, but motion carries.
Okay. All right, and we are towards the end here. Eric, other information?
Sure. Did you want to touch base on IASB, the annual conference first?
Okay, so the annual conference is coming up in November. It is the weekend before Thanksgiving, I think, every year.
Yep.
I know Eric's attended, Adam's attended, Carol and Phyllis before. So I don't know, if you want to start thinking about, would you go? I think it's a conference opportunity, lots of different things, sessions that I think board members can do. Phyllis went to the resolutions meeting last time.
She was our delegate, right?
Yes, she was.
I would go, actually, this year. Natasha, if you wouldn't mind registering me. Thank you.
Cool.
Anyone else?
I'll go with you.
Phyllis.
I thought it was informative. It was
Yes.
collaborative, met a lot of other people from other districts. Adam was a rock star. Everybody knew Adam.
And just informal conversations you have with other board members, and some people are going through similar things, so it's nice just to chat with people. So, yeah, so if you want to check your calendars and kind of think about, if you might be able to go or go to part of it, I think Carol attended part of it, if you can only do, but, yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to say on that, Eric?
No.
Okay.
That'd be great. And then we do have an enrollment update. Before we get to the regular enrollment, Denise had just asked me to give the board an update on summer school. So for our ESY program, typically we would have somewhere between 80 and 100 students. This year we have 57. For our WOW summer school program, it typically is in the neighborhood of 800. This year we have 648. So numbers are a little bit down. Then Adam?
Just as far as, sorry. And then just as far as tracking overall enrollment from, not only for the kindergarten, but going through 8th grade. Currently, we are a little bit lower than we normally are at this time. However, as the secretaries are leaving the buildings for the summer, the business office, in conjunction with IT department, we start contacting those families every single week. If any of those families have started registration, giving them reminders and then giving opportunities to come into ESC and either, give additional paperwork related to residency, registration, make payments, and or anyone that needs assistance with computers and filling that out. So a little lower than normal right now, but as we, move through the summer, we're hoping we're going to, see those numbers creep up similar to similar to what we had the past few years.
And principals and secretaries just found it just took a lot longer this year to, number of people that just typically would respond sooner, and it was a lot more work to get families to commit. And I do know there's a couple families that still inform me they're waiting to see if full-day kindergarten is really going to be a reality before they commit, but hopefully we'll just continue to have our enrollment go up.
So with kindergarten, so do you have a sense of how many families are still electing for a half-day versus a full-day option?
There are a handful of families, single digits at each elementary building right now. So and people have their reasons. In every single case, the principals have reached out to the families and had conversations about half-day kindergarten. But it's a very small number. And just to kind of reiterate what we've done as far as the program itself, we're not running a separate half-day program in classrooms. The students will be integrated in the classroom, and then at lunchtime they will just go home for the day.
Are those folks made aware too of the I know we passed a policy change allowing a reduced rate. I know I'm not sure if it has been publicized yet, but I know we passed the policy. The policy was a principle. It didn't actually lay out the cost structure in detail, but are we publicizing that discount for those families with less disposable income?
Yes, we've definitely had the conversation about financial. I'm not saying that isn't part of the reason, but there's still a number of parents whose older kids have gone through half day and they're looking for the half day experience. Probably thinking that the half day experience in a full day setting is going to be exactly like it was in the previous setting. So I know just in talking to other districts that have gone to this model, it seems like the first year you'll have some of this, and then as you move into years 2 and 3, it'll pretty much, for the most part, it'll significantly minimize. So,
well, it maybe brings a point though if that isn't the reason in these people's case, and people may not be registering at all. Like how are we publicizing the discount element? We talked about inclusiveness earlier. I just want to make sure that we're getting that message out that there is this discounted rate available for those families in need. How are we doing that?
On all the information related to fee waivers and related to, as part of the registration process, anyone that's going through the registration process will see that, will have access in that.
All right, 2 more kindergarten questions. So let's say a student starts in half day, and then they're like, oh, I think we want to stay for school day. Is that a possibility, to stay for the full day?
So yes, we talked about that for a while. There is going to be an opportunity in this first year to allow parents to make changes, at least in the first half of the year, because some parents might, after a couple weeks, realize that they might have made a different choice. However, depending on the number of parents that want that, it could end up being their child has to change teachers. So that is a factor that is going to be there depending on how many families ask for that.
Okay.
Is there a cutoff period for that at some point?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
Yes, I'm not remembering the date right off the top of my head.
No,
but
just can't be all year because.
No, right.
No.
Exactly.
It's May. I just want to get the kids out of the house.
Yeah, right.
Okay, all right. And then, so I would have thought our kindergarten enrollment would have gone up because students are going to, the parochial schools nearby.
Yeah, at this time, no.
Okay.
But again, we interact with families every week. We update the numbers every week. Every Friday, we get updates. We continuously look at them. So,
Yeah, I think what's also hard is because we're down in every grade level, it's like, if we didn't have this, would we have had more kindergartners? Maybe, I don't, so it is a little difficult to determine.
and just on that note, going back to the COVID and the demographer study, from several years ago, the numbers overall are still, our total enrollment is still lower than the demographer projected. So whether that's a COVID thing, whether that's students went to religious schools or staying there, whatever the reason, that's where the trend is right now.
Okay.
Was the question already asked? The balance between full day and half day?
Yeah.
We only have single digits.
We have single digits and half day.
Parents that want half day.
So most everyone transformed to full day.
Correct.
And so it sounds like, Adam, you'll continue bringing enrollment updates for every board meeting, just if there's any
Definitely.
rule or things that, that another class needs to be added or some other solution. Okay. All
Definitely.
right, anything else on enrollment? Okay. All right. Anything else, Eric?
No, that was it.
Okay. All right. How about new business? Anyone have any new business?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask, on behalf of Larry, that if we can add SROs to the agenda for the next meeting. I think that Larry said he's got a couple of folks who would be willing to speak to, police officers or former police officers, and I think that would be a good discussion to have with the climate right now in the country and some of the other things about behavior and students' behavior and things like that. I think that bringing that discussion up, I think, and having that next time to see if the board has any appetite to revisit that topic, I think that would be good to have next meeting.
And I think, Eric, next meeting, you're talking about discipline, and that's in the meeting agenda.
Yeah, so it's good that we'll do all that in one night.
Are you interested in maybe getting your hands on the last discussion's worth of materials? There was a lot of good work that was put in that I think we should follow if we are even going to consider visiting SROs. Certain community members worked really hard to make sure that there are certain steps were taken first if we were going to do this. So I think we don't need to
read a full report from a independent specialist that we brought in that
MOUs,
you guys probably want to see that too.
I'd appreciate it.
I think it would be a
that
good
was made
start,
available.
because if we're going to do it, if we start from there, then we're not reinventing the wheel and doing years and years worth of mistakes when we already have them, at our disposal. So maybe a copy of that would be great.
That would be fantastic, and I think, Larry has asked for it, but I think having that background for the rest of us who weren't on the board at the time would be very helpful.
From what I remember, there's a roadmap that was put together for us. If we're going to follow the route of considering SROs, there's a roadmap to follow to do it right, to make sure that you get buy-in by community, make sure you get that you know exactly what you want your SROs to be doing, what their job is, what their job isn't, MOUs, and
we've got,
right.
quite frankly, we've got 90%
of the work done.
Of the work done.
Right.
Documentation, MOUs. We did a thorough audit of the process. So if this is the route you're going, I'll start compiling.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be great.
All of that's done.
Oh, that's great. That means if the board's kind of in favor, it shouldn't be a very difficult thing to do.
No. I didn't say that.
All right.
For the record, Tony says.
So
I
not
didn't
quite
say that.
90%.
To be clear, the 90% of the work was the easy part. The last 10%
is the difficult
part.
Okay.
Just to be honest.
Yes, right. It's going to make COVID look calm.
Okay.
Well, okay. Other new business? The only other thing, Fred Sanchez reached out to Eric and I, and this happened a few years ago, where the Taste of Park Ridge happens, and the district had a little table there just for community visibility, and it sounds like last meeting, there was an interest in maybe connecting with the community in some way. And so Fred asked if we wanted to be at a table representing the district. So
We could give away.
because Larry's not here anymore. What about the Twizzlers? You're not giving those out. No, yeah. He's like, Larry's gone. I'll give those out. So I don't know, is that an interest that we would want to pursue? The date is Thursday, July 14th. So, I mean, we can look at the dates, but is that just an interest of the board?
Thursday?
It's a Thursday. Because it's Thursday, 11 to 1:45 is what the kind of shift would be.
This is for the Taste of Park Ridge?
That's the Taste of Park Ridge.
The Taste Park Ridge goes Wednesday through Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, or Tuesday through Sunday.
The big table thing was usually on a Saturday where they shut down by the church and all the community kind of groups were kind of there on the Saturday. It seems a little odd.
Oh, no, there's something going on every day.
Yeah.
But most of the booths are for food and, other stuff.
say, what do we do then?
Early on in the front, they have like 3 or 4 for community. One day, it might be the police, the next day, it might be the library,
Wine.
the next day, it might be, so they're slotting us in on Thursday.
It's a good idea, I just can't make it that day.
Yeah, that's the middle of
Okay.
a work day.
Okay.
That's the problem. If it was a weekend, I'd say.
Right. Well, then, okay, there's a weekend opportunity, so there you go. You're just kind of leading into the next thing. So the other opportunity, if you're available on the weekend, Fred also said if we wanted to do the farmer's market on a Saturday, just to be visible, and that would be on Saturday, there's typically 2 shifts, 8 to 8:30 to 10, and 10 to 11:30. So it sounds like these are things we'd want to pursue. We just have to see availability.
I'm there every Saturday anyways, so yeah, might as
Yeah.
well put
I
me at a
can do
table.
that.
There you go.
Farmers
I might be able
market,
to do
that's a
the
good
14th.
idea.
Okay. Okay, so it sounds like both things we want to pursue. I can follow up via email who's available when, and then, but it kind of goes with, being out in the community, representing the district, so.
Okay, so did you need me to make the motion to go back into closed now?
I was going to say, for new business, is there anything we want to discuss about the special education audit?
Right, if we could add that to the next meeting agenda, just to discuss just to continue the discussion before.
Yes.
Is anyone on board with?
If that's of interest to the rest of the board, to continue the conversation.
I think special education continued discussion is, it's okay if we do it every meeting. So
Okay, so
I'm good
July
with it.
21st, if we can just discuss the next steps with the audit.
Having said that, I probably won't be here July 21st.
Neither, I haven't said that, I won't be either, because
We
I
can
know
do
I'm in,
August.
I'll try and dial in, but I don't know if I can from where I'll be at that time on vacation.
Okay, so I heard 2 things. I heard that we would just put it on the agenda so people can talk about it more, but then I also heard the next steps, that would be a different presentation.
Right, because you would
Yep.
need an action item.
Yeah.
Right, if we were to say that, we'll possibly need an action item.
Yeah,
but-
right, not the action item part, but just, again, Alicia starts July 1st, so I have to get to that part,
And then are we going to have quorum on the 21st if people are out? Is this
Who's gonna
another
be out?
situation where we're going to need to move the meeting again?
I will be on business/vacation from the 15th to the 15th. So
Would you be able to call in? Are you going to be in a different time zone?
that never stopped me before.
Okay.
But if there's 5 of us,
The 21st?
Then you can call me and tell me not to call in.
Wait,
okay. So as long as Nikki and Carol and Phyllis and I,
but wait a minute, is it on the 21st?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm out on baseball. Sorry, guys. Actually, I'm out the week 19th through the 24th
okay,
Yeah.
in Milwaukee.
okay.
I'll be there too, Phyllis. I'll meet up with you.
All right, so we'll have to, it just,
August is good.
Yeah, and just
It's
again,
challenging.
As much as you can, looking ahead, all the summer vacations are scheduled now, and depending, And depending on where we're going to move it now, I don't know that I'll be able to have the proper people there. It seemed lately like we're struggling with board meetings and having enough people, so.
So will we have 4 on the 21st? I mean, I'll be here, I'll be back in town for that afternoon.
Are you looking to have some sort of action item for the 21st, Carol?
No, I don't think that's really necessary. It's one of those things where I think it's, within the scope of the contract that we already approved. So I don't know if we really need an action item. It's more of like a
Informative.
discussion item with like the board members to say that they consent to X or Y. So,
okay, so you're thinking it's more of a discussion item. I guess then that's the idea of quorum.
to have a meeting in the first place, right?
You don't need a quorum if you're only discussing. You don't need a quorum if you're taking action, right,
Well,
Tom?
we have a
agenda.
regular board meeting
Unless there's
scheduled for July 21st. That's what
Oh,
we're
you
saying.
need- I
Do we
still-
have enough people?
You do? Oh, okay. There was some discussion, I thought, when some folks walked out of a library meeting in Niles the other day where there was still a quorum, but they still had the meeting continued. No? Oh, okay. Oh,
Well,
so
let's
just-
go with Tony.
okay.
Let's go with 4
No, I'll go with Tony. That's
So
interesting.
we
Yes,
have-
I will
Derek,
be
will
there.
you be here July 21st? Or no, did you say?
I will hesitate to say, I can't be here in person. If I have a cell signal, I'm kind of on a volunteer business basis. I'm with the Boy Scouts camp out and supervising in Michigan.
That sounds like a no.
So.
It sounds like a, yeah.
Yeah, I think the cell signal will be pretty poor in all likelihood.
And you need to attend those little campers.
So I think, I would say I wouldn't count me.
On the 21st.
And
Yeah, that week.
You're out.
I will definitely, by the 21st, be out of town.
Okay.
But like I said, if you guys need me to call in to
If
make a
Larry's here,
quorum,
then
I
we'll
can
have
do it.
4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can call in, I just won't be
Okay,
here.
so
Okay.
you could call in. Okay. I'll just check in with Larry just to make sure. And then, yeah, it's just helpful if we can just let us know as soon as we can, just
So,
because if we have to move
Just
these
so
meetings.
everyone's clear, if a board member is on vacation, they can't vote. If you're on business and you're calling in, you can. So just that, so everyone understands that. I will be on, every year when I leave, I'm on business. A portion of my trip I use for vacation, but I always schedule the days that are scheduled meetings to be doing business.
Okay. Tony?
And you are 100% correct, but for the state that we're in right now, we are still under a disaster proclamation from the governor. So actually attending not physically is allowed for everybody regardless of the reason.
Beautiful.
Yeah, but
Okay.
once that's lifted, that is exactly the correct.
And what does volunteer business, does that count as business?
It doesn't matter at this
Any
point,
reason
because-
right now.
Because this is not a vacation for me.
At
So
this- at this
I
point, it
guess it's
doesn't
up to me
matter.
it's up to me to determine that?
Yeah, well, you just have to, in good faith, let us know that you're somewhere for business or illness.
Okay.
Those are the two
Those are-
reasons you can call in, but right now, anybody can call in.
And it's a family illness too, I think. It doesn't have to be you
Right,
specifically
you or,
too.
yes, exactly.
That's another reason.
Okay.
So we're still having this July 21st, basically.
We're just going to check in with Larry, but we are still
Okay,
having
that's
it right
fine.
now. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
So, do you want to check on August? Because I'm not here for, I'm not here for August either.
When is the next meeting after that?
Okay,
August-
let's check on August. Then.
August 18th.
18.
You're back.
I'll be back, unfortunately.
Oh, I'll be back by August 18th, school starts.
A lot of people take vacation just before
I
school
do
comes back.
August 1st is my vacation, but
Okay, so August 18th 's looking okay.
Yes.
Okay.
17th is the first day for Maine South, so.
Okay. All right. All right, anything else in new business? Okay, Carol, you are on.
Okay, so, let's see, we're going to recess and adjourn to a closed meeting, so I move that we go into closed session under 2C2 of the open, no, sorry, 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, specific individuals who serve as independent contractors in a park, or recreational or educational setting, or specific volunteers of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee, a specific individual who serves as an independent contractor in a park, recreational or educational setting, or a volunteer of the public body, or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity.
Second.
Okay, so Carol had the motion and Gareth had the second. So it is now 9:03, and the board is going back into closed session.
Sorry, if the board changes the July 21st date,
I don't think we are.
okay.
So, I'll check in.
Just
with
because
you.
everything,
Is that-
the parameters of the property sale are related to the date.
Right.
So if anything changes, I'd have to change it tomorrow afternoon.
We need 2/3 for that, though.
Let me check in with Larry, and then we can loop in.
Let's do that, thank
Okay,
you.
just so you have that confidence in that. Okay. To close.
No, we didn't vote
take a
yet.
roll call.
Yes, okay. Vote to go into closed.
Pearl,
Yes.
Stellis,
Yes.
Lubinsky, yes. Vaitovich?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Sotos? Yes. All right.
Okay.
Closed it.
So we are now in closed session. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good